Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I am very grateful to be among all of you, Yuga Dharma Ashram. And I wish to thank you with all my heart for your historical, incredible, wonderful, exemplary devotional service. Srila Prabhupada and all of our previous acharyas, mercy and blessings are surely showering upon you. We are reading today from Canto 1 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chapter 5, entitled Narada's Instructions on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Text 19. My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence because he is rasagraha. Rasagraha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to incongenial association, just like fruitive workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord Himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruitive workers. The fruitive workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord Himself. As a special favor, He may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord, and is set right to execute his devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified Brahmins or in a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. The devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good families. The fallen devotees born in a good family may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they are less fortunate. But the devotee who is put into a forlorn condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is the sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and does not forget him even for a moment. Not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells, Ragadvesha vamuktaishtu vishayan indrayashtaran atmavasarab vishayatma prasadam adhigacchati. In this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells that one who follows the regulative principles of freedom obtains the complete mercy of the Lord. Daivi heshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mamevam ye prapadyante maya meta taranti. This material nature is very difficult to overcome. In fact, it's insurmountable. There's no possibility, ultimately, through our efforts, that we can overcome the fears and the temptations and the allurements of Maya Devi. Maya is Krishna's energy. Maya dyakshena prakriti suyate sacharachanam. Therefore, the little jiva cannot withstand the powers of Maya. But Krishna tells one who takes shelter of me can easily cross beyond this ocean of Maya. In fact, the example Krishna, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam gives, this limitless ocean of the powers of Maya is impossible to overcome. For one who truly, sincerely takes shelter of the Lord, the water of that ocean reduces to the quantity and the hoofprint of a calf. So we are all completely dependent on Krishna's mercy. That is the unique, all-powerful gift of bhakti, is we understand that it is only by the mercy of Krishna and we can achieve Krishna. Bhaktya tvananya shakya aham evam vidorjanam yatam darastam cha tatvena pravesham cha parantapa. Krishna tells, it is only through devotional service, bhakti, that I can be understood as I am standing before you. Through Jnana Yoga, one can get a partial understanding of the absolute truth, the all-pervading Brahman. Through Astanga Yoga, one can get a deeper understanding of the Paramatma, who is situated within the heart of every living being and who is the super soul of the entire cosmic manifestation. Srila Prabhupada describes, just like the little jivatma that is the size of 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. It's within our heart. And that jiva is all-pervading within this body. Anywhere in the body you touch, it's not the body that feels it. Because the body's it's just matter. It has no individual consciousness. A dead body, if you prick the dead body with a pin, the dead body doesn't even move because there's no feeling, no experience. But if you prick a living body with the pin, because you feel it, because there's consciousness. What is that consciousness? It's not the body, it's the soul, the jiva. So the jiva has this power. It's all pervading through this body. And the Paramatma is all pervading through the entire universe and the entire cosmic manifestation. Just like we're conscious of what happens within this body at all times, similarly, Paramatma is conscious of what's happening in and between every atom throughout the entire existence. Within the heart of every living being. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavashani chabhutana mam tu vedana kashtana. He knows every thought, every word, every action of every living being, and never forgets. If at one time we had the body of a mosquito and we bit somebody, Krishna remembers it even now that we did that. He never forgets anything. He's all-knowing. He's Achintya Shakti, inconceivable. That's Paramatma. So through Ashtanga Yoga, we can actually come in contact with the Paramatma. But the full, complete realization of the Absolute Truth is Bhagavan. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajganmadvayam pramiti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. The Supreme Personality of God. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The first Guru of the universe, Brahma, he has declared in this way that Ishvara Parama Krishna. There are many controllers. Each one of us is a controller in our own way. And that's the whole problem with material existence. Everyone wants to be a controller, an enjoyer, a proprietor. And because of that, there's so much competition and so much envy and so much arrogance and so much greed and such a disconnection from truth. The reality, because we're jivas and we're part and parcel of Krishna, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We all have some little capacity to control. Krishna's all-knowing, so we have some capacity to know. Krishna's all merciful, we have some capacity to be merciful. But it's all depending on Krishna. Krishna, like the sun, every sun ray gets its power from the sun planet. Every little outlet in the wall gets its power from the electrical powerhouse. So similarly, because we're part and parcel of Krishna, whatever we have, we're getting from Krishna. So he's Ishvara Parama. He's the supreme controller of all controllers. Bhakti Vinod Thakur begins one of his prayers, Tumi Sarveshwareshwara Brajendra Kumara. This Brajendra Kumar, this little Kumar, Krishna's a small boy in Vrindavana. He's the son of Nanda, Brajendra. And he's playing like an ordinary boy. When Brahma stole the calves and the gopas, and then he came back after a year by earth time, it was just a moment of his time, he saw that all the boys and all the calves were still there. And then when he got bewildered by put them in a cave, in mystic sleep. I'm Brahma, I'm so powerful. How is it that they're still here? They were still in the cave, he saw. They were still there. He was playing with Krishna. And he became so bewildered. He didn't know what to think. How is this happening? And then suddenly every cow, every calf, and every boy turned into Vishnu, the Lord of Vaikuntha. And each one of them were surrounded by demigods and sages and rishis offering worship to him. And then he was really bewildered. And then everything disappeared. And in that state, he just saw little Gopal holding a piece of yogurt in his hand with some, Prabhupada called it fruit salad. It was dahi with fruit salad. And at that time, Brahma understood Krishna as the supreme absolute truth, the source of everything that exists, the source of Brahman, which is the effulgence from his body, the all-pervading light, the source of Paramatma, which is the super soul of all existence. The source of it all is Krishna, who's just appearing to be looking for his calves and friends. And when Brahma surrendered to Krishna in this way and understood, Satchidananda Vigraha, Krishna's form is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. It's the source of everything. Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. He's the cause of all causes, the source, and the only shelter for all living beings. And at that point, Brahma completely surrendered and took shelter of Krishna. And then he actually saw Vrindavana. He saw every tree as a kalpa-vriksha. He saw every grain of dust as chintamani. He saw every cow as a kamadhenu. Before that, he saw Vrindavana as an ordinary place. That's Brahma. He has 8 eyes, 4 heads. He's seeing Vrindavana as an ordinary place until he took shelter and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Krishna revealed, Yega tamam prapadyante tam stitaiva bhajamyaham hamavart vartante manusya parita sarvasha. As we surrender to Krishna, Krishna reveals himself. As we surrender to Krishna, Krishna reveals Vrindavana, his eternal abode, which is none different than him. As we surrender to Krishna, Krishna also reveals himself within the hearts of his devotees. So, surrender means to understand I'm completely helpless and dependent on Krishna. And that's the only way that Krishna reveals himself as he is. And rasa, or loving exchanges, are only possible when we appreciate Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God, who is eternal and who is the supreme reciprocator of all love, and who is the first 9 cantos of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam give so many examples of who is Krishna. He's Mahavishnu, Karuna-dakshayi Vishnu, Garbho-dakshayi Vishnu, Kshiro-dakshayi Vishnu. It describes how he creates the universe, how he empowers all the demigods, how he appears in so many different avatars. Matsya, Kurma. Krishna comes as a turtle, but his shell is 800,000 miles wide. And he's all-knowing, the Supreme Personality of God. He appears as Narsingha Dev, Varaha Dev, Parasuram, Ramchandra. And now he's this little boy eating dirt, looking for his friends, holding his little yogurt. And he was standing there with that little yogurt for 1 year, and it was still perfectly fresh. Krishna can, just by his exhalation, create all of the universes, and he can keep yogurt fresh for 1 year in his hand. Krishna is all. By understanding through the 9 cantos of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam who is Krishna, who is the absolute truth, then when we come to the 10th canto, what a wonderful appreciation we could have for Krishna's pastimes, his leelas. The highest revelation of the spiritual world. We have read in the first 9 cantos the pastimes of Vaikuntha, the opulence, the greatness of Narayan in all his incarnations. And only when understanding all these does Sukadeva Goswami reveal the inner pastimes of Krishna with his loving devotees, the Gopas and the Gopis in Vrindavana. So in this way, bhakti is the process of serving Krishna to please Krishna. And what pleases Krishna most? Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyashim namaskuru. Mami vaishashi satyam te prati jani priyoshime. Krishna tells to always remember me, to never forget me, to be my devotee. In this way, Krishna gives himself to his devotee. So this is the very essence of bhakti, to sincerely take shelter of Krishna's mercy, and to serve Krishna in such a way, to remember Krishna in such a way that Krishna is pleased. And Mahatmanastu mamparata daivim prakriti mashata bhajantyananya manasho gyatva bhutatim avyayam. That is a Mahatma, one who's under the divine energy of the Lord. Neha bhaktiramanasosti pratyavayo nividyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. And Krishna is so merciful that any efforts that are offered to Krishna with sincerity, Krishna never forgets. It's an investment in our spiritual account that can never be lost. If we make mistakes, it can be forgotten. We can forget it sometime. But for a sincere devotee, even that forgetfulness is Krishna's way of eventually bringing us back to the path and going back home, back to God. That is Krishna's inconceivable mercy upon a devotee. I remember one time Srila Prabhupada, he wrote to one of his disciples, one of his very early disciples from 26 2nd Avenue, who actually was having difficulties. And he loved Prabhupada, but he kind of fell away from the regulative principles and sadhana. And Prabhupada wrote to him, and he said, because you once chanted Krishna's name sincerely in Vrindavan, Krishna will bring you back. Yay. Prabhupada had that complete faith. When Prabhupada started this movement in 26 2nd Avenue, here in New York City, he had so much faith in the holy name of Krishna, so much faith in his Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada would say again and again that I'm simply coming to execute the order of my Guru Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had total faith. Anyone who helps in this mission is going to be blessed forever. And he gave such responsibilities to people who really were not prepared. There was no Garbhodan Samskaras. There was no Gurukulas for these people who were just living in America. 1960s. But Prabhupada knew, even if something happens, they're on their way back to Godhead, and Krishna's going to bring them back in due course. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is speaking of in this particular purport. And in that this particular devotee I'm speaking of, later on, he got a disease, and he was dying, and I saw with my own eyes. He became more humble than a blade of grass, and he was, from the core of his heart, he was taking shelter of Krishna. From the core of his heart, he was taking shelter of Prabhu. Back in the 1960s, at one time, Prabhupada said, "I want to give you sannyas." And he was so afraid. He said, "No, Prabhupada, I'm not qualified." And Prabhupada said, "All right, then you get married." And he got married, and so many things happened. And he fell away from the association. But then he came back, and he took shelter of Prabhupada so much. In his last months, he took sannyas. And I remember he couldn't go to the fire yajna because he was crippled with cancer. And I brought him his danda, and he looked at that danda and started crying. He was talking to his danda. He held it, and he saw Prabhupada. He said, "Srila Prabhupada," he said, "you told me to take sannyas, and now I'm doing it." It's like 30 years later. He said, "Due to my weak-heartedness, I could have done so much for you, but I didn't. But you never gave up on me. By your causeless mercy, you have dragged me back." He was embracing the danda and weeping like a child. He surrendered. I saw with my eyes at that moment the power of Guru's mercy, the power of Prabhupada's mercy. Because he helped him at one time. But he had to go through suffering. He had to go through suffering in between. And Srila Prabhupada is explaining that when a devotee sincerely engages in devotional service, sincerely chants Krishna's name, Krishna never forgets that. And if that devotee falls away, he may get his next life in a very good family with a lot of wealth and a lot of opportunities to continue his devotional service. But Prabhupada's saying here, but when Krishna gives even more mercy, he puts that devotee in a totally helpless condition where the devotee realizes, "I have nothing but you." Yeah, Gajendra was a very nice devotee. He was Introductory Maharaj. But then somehow or other he fell away, and he made some aparad to a rishi, and he became an elephant. He completely forgot his devotional service. He had so many elephant wives, and he had so many elephant children, and he was so much power, and he was just enjoying, totally forgetful of all his devotional service. But by Krishna's grace, when the crocodile bit his leg, and it was more painful than any pain you could possibly imagine, and he was totally humiliated, he was being defeated, he was about to die. In that totally helpless condition, he called out for Krishna. And Krishna was right there for him. At that moment, Krishna took him back to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. That's Krishna. He's all merciful. And that is why it's so important for us to Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyena Bhujai. It's difficult to understand the mind of a Vaishnava. It can be understood on different levels. On one level, a Paramhamsa like Srila Prabhupada, just got a letter last night. I had an event that lasted till almost midnight last night, and as I was coming back, I happened to see a letter I got on email from His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. And he wrote that he had just completed his book about Srila Prabhupada's struggles in Radha Bihari Temple in Juhu, Bombay. It's a 589-page book. And here was, that's going to be one of the greatest books ever written, I'm sure. But Giriraj Maharaj, we know some of the stories of Prabhupada there. The devotees couldn't understand why Prabhupada wanted a temple there. And why Prabhupada, who had no influence whatsoever in India, and just had these inexperienced Western devotees who didn't know anything about dealings in India, and the mayor of the city and the chief editor of big newspapers and the government was all against him, trying to squash him and take the property away. Prabhupada, he offered it to Radha Bihari because he knew this was going to come, so he offered it to Radha Bihari, and he was completely dependent. Krishna, I've given this land to you, now we have to build this temple. And the devotees couldn't understand, why is he doing this? How is he doing this? So it's very difficult to understand the mind of great souls. But also, even ordinary devotees who have sincerely begun the path and who have pleased Srila Prabhupada in one way or another and tried to help him spread this movement. Prabhupada warned us, we can't understand who these devotees are. Even in a condition like the one I referred to before, still that person was dear to Prabhupada. And therefore, we have to see beyond. We have to see beyond. And I just looked at the calendar before I began the class and saw today is the disappearance day of JAYANANDA Prabhu. And he was such an example of this principle of how he saw Vaishnavas. JAYANANDA Prabhu, it's toward the end of class, so I'm only going to be able to speak briefly, but special, because I used to teach regular classes at Ohio State University, and later on I found he graduated from Ohio State University. He was from the Midwest, simple man, and he went to San Francisco. And when he met Srila Prabhupada in 1967, there were only a few devotees. And everybody, 100% of everybody coming to the temple in Haight-Ashbury, in San Francisco, in 1967, the summer of love, everyone was a counterculture hippie, except him. He was elder than all of them. He was respectable, he had a job, he actually was a graduate in engineering. But he got a job as a taxi driver simply because he didn't like to be with all the, kind of rich, puffed up people who were like engineers and everything. He just wanted to be with simple people and have a simple life. But he was actually a very responsible, considered really like a gentleman by society. And he would come to the classes and everybody around was, getting stoned on drugs and LSD and hippies, and here he was, almost like their father. But he loved Srila Prabhupada. And he took Krishna consciousness so seriously. And he saw Prabhupada was in so much need. He had no money. He only had a few disciples. He had such a big vision and a big plan. Srila Prabhupada put so much of his heart and his life and his soul into translating and writing purports for Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Jayananda Prabhu saying that, he gave at that time his entire life savings, $5,000, which was a huge amount of money in 1967. I never had that much money my whole life. $5,000. He gave it all to Srila Prabhupada for the first printing of Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Srila Prabhupada never forgot that. Throughout, from 1967 all the way to 1976, whenever Prabhupada would talk about Jayananda, think about Jayananda, which was very often, he would so often remember, he gave me his whole life savings to print Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then because the temple had no money, it was just a little storefront in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury district, he continued his job as a taxi driver and maintained the whole temple. He would get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, chant all his rounds, go to the morning program, and then he would go out and he would get all the flowers for the deities, he would get all the bhoga for the deities and the devotees. He would do it himself. And his special quality, a quality that was so dear to Prabhupada, was he saw everyone as better than himself. Srila Prabhupada explained the Vaikuntha consciousness, Krishna consciousness, when we see everyone better than ourselves. Prabhupada would often cite this example, that Vaikuntha consciousness, spiritual consciousness, is when everyone else is Prabhu, every other Vaishnava is Prabhu, and I am Das. And Prabhupada would say it. And Prabhupada would sometimes say, you are all representatives of my Guru Maharaj. But Jayananda Prabhu was such a living example of that. He really just treated everyone with such respect, even newcomers, even people off the street, even drunkards. They all loved him. Like the 6 Goswamis were dear to the gentle and the ruffians, Jayananda Prabhu was, everyone loved him. And everyone wanted to serve him. The vendors at the flower markets and the fruit markets would give him huge amounts of free fruits and free flowers. And if they couldn't, they would give him the ultimate discounts they possibly could. And he would be driving his taxi in order to get the money to afford it. And he would bring it back. And he would do the repairs. You know, if there was a toilet that was clogged, he would run with great enthusiasm, with such a grateful heart, to unclog that toilet, to fix the cars. He was just serving. And even though he was elder than everyone, he was more qualified materially than everyone. After a little while, he had the closest association with Prabhupada than practically everyone. Still, he was serving everyone and gave everyone such respect. And when he started making the Ratayatra carts, the Rat, you know, he would just go out and get all the money for it, and he would do the work, and he from early morning till late night, and devotees would just want to help him. They just loved him because he loved them, and he was giving such a good example. And even, you know, just people off the streets, he would engage them in helping build the chariots for Jagannath. And they loved him. He would love to go out and he loved to go out and do Harinam-Sankirtan with devotees in the streets. He would He would never give himself credit for anything. He always loved to give other devotees credit for everything. That's such a rare quality. But that's a Vaishnava. And he would do so in such a way that he would empower everyone around him. He gave all credit to whatever he did to his complete faith in Srila Prabhupada as his guru and the holy names of Krishna. Whoever he would meet, he would engage them in service, he would speak to them and make them happy, and then he would say, chant Hare Krishna. Krishna's name is Krishna. And everybody would believe him. How could you not believe somebody you love so much? That was Jayananda. And there are so many books about him and stories about him by people who knew him and lived with him. And when he got this painful, terminal state of cancer, he was aloof. He just wanted to continue serving. Even when he was he just kept building chariots for Rath Yatra. And he said the ultimate blessing of his life, he got to come to New York City to build the chariots for the first Rath Yatras in New York City, which were going to be down Fifth Avenue with Srila Prabhupada personally present. And even though he was practically in a wheelchair, he did it. He was working so hard. Whether he dies or not, it's just like a detail. The most important thing is we have to get these chariots for Prabhupada. That was his determination, his dedication, his fearlessness, his love. And when he did pass from this world in a perfect state of Krishna consciousness, even though he was so unassuming, he would always be eager that other devotees got Prabhupada's association. And he would go and do all the chores so that other people could be with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would, if all the other devotees were coming, and Prabhupada would ask, where is Jayananda? Why he's not coming to see me? And devotees saying he's doing everything so that we can come to see. I want to see Jayananda. Prabhupada couldn't forget Jayananda. They'd run to Jayananda and say, why don't you go to see Prabhupada? He would say, I'm so fallen. How can I go before such a pure devotee? All of you go, you're doing such good service. I'll clean the pots, you go. That was how he was, from the genuine core of his heart. Prabhupada would always ask, where is Jayananda? Jayananda used to drive me. Jayananda paid for the printing of my first book of Bhagavad Gita. Jayananda, he helped me in so many ways, maintaining the whole temple, inspiring all the devotees. And when he left, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Jayananda after he left, and he distributed throughout the whole movement. And he said, Jayananda, you have gone back to Goloka Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, you have gone back to Goloka Vrindavan for your life of dedication and service. Then Prabhupada gave an instruction for our whole movement, for all time to come, that we should celebrate today, Jayananda Prabhu's disappearance day, as a holiday in our Vaishnava calendar forevermore. Such a devotee who appeared so simple, was seen, understood, and respected as a saint by everybody around who knew him. But he was seeing everybody else as saints, except himself. That's the beauty of today. So in today's wonderful verse, we're seeing the power of the mercy of Krishna, the power of the mercy of a devotee of Krishna. And to take shelter of that power of mercy. To take shelter of the holy names of the Lord with that understanding is truly the path of perfection. And today I would like to express to each and every one of you how I'm just so deeply impressed and so deeply grateful and deeply inspired by your determination on book distribution and Harinam-Sankirtan. These two principles of Harinam-Sankirtan and book distribution are like the basic foundation of the Hare Krishna movement, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Hari Katha, which is book distribution, giving Hari Prabhupada's Hari Katha to the world, and Harinam-Sankirtan, Sravanam Kirtanam. And your steadiness, your dedication, go out every day in this very difficult place of New York City, the very place where Prabhupada struggled. All of us get to struggle too. Such a blessing, such a benediction. You cannot even calculate it. A materialistic person wants to enjoy, a devotee wants to serve. And the place in the world where Srila Prabhupada got to struggle so much to start this movement, we have this supreme blessing, better than elevation to the heavenly planets, better than getting miraculous mystic cities, better than any of these things that people are striving to achieve, is we have the great benediction of the opportunity to struggle where Srila Prabhupada struggled. What a blessing, what a boon, what a wealth. And that's the wealth that all of you have inherited it, and you are sharing it in such a wonderful way. Ram Rai Prabhu, who is through Matras Parashas Tukonteya Sitos Nasuka Dukata Agama Payano Nityastams Tatikshasva Bharata. That verse, I think of Ram Rai Prabhu. Through the winter and summer seasons. Honor, dishonor, pleasure, pain, apparent success and failure. Sometimes he's kind of homeless, sometimes he has a beautiful home. But whatever it is, he just keeps going out and chanting and persistently. His beloved Guru Maharaj, Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj, is so happy with him and blessing him in so many ways. Srila Prabhupada blessing him in so many ways. He's struggling. And now we see attracting such dedicated devotees to assist. And it's more and more an inspiration for Vaishnavas all over the world, what all of you are doing. congratulate you. I pray for you, and I thank you. I'm just remembering now when I'm looking at Ram Rai Prabhu, when I used to come here, it was in the early 80s, I believe, and Aindra Prabhu had his little truck. I used to join him and sit in his little truck with him. He just had a little truck, and he'd open up the sides of it, and there was like a little temple with Indian cloths. He'd be sitting there singing, and he would just pull up, he would just get a parking place and open up the sides of his little truck, and it was just like kirtan on the side of the street, and people would be walking by and they'd stop, and he'd have some prasad for them, and some books were there, and he'd be chanting. And that's where his kirtan ras began, in the streets of New York City. And then by Krishna's grace, somehow Sri Radharani's grace, he was attracted to come to Vrindavana, and he established, kirtan in Vrindavana, the 24-hour kirtan. And whatever happened, Matra Sparshastu Konteya, Vrindavana could be extremely cold in the winter with no heat. It could be extremely hot in the summer. And there were so many changes of management and so many sociological challenges there at Krishna Balaram Temple. But through it all, he just kept chanting. And not only did he chant, but with his whole heart, with his whole soul, he just perfected his chanting. He became like a true artist of kirtan. He wasn't born of the skills. It was given to him by Sri Radharani and Krishna and Prabhupada because of his total surrender and dedication to the holy names. And we were very close together. Whenever I'd come there, we'd always spend a lot of time. I'd go to his room or walk around with him or sit some under a tree. And I remember he would say how Prabhupada wanted to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And his kirtan in Vrindavan was, he said, I'm not leaving here, but my kirtan here is to inspire people to have kirtans all over the world and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And just as Prabhupada would so many times refer throughout his life to his early days in New York, Aindra Prabhu really had a very deep hope and wish and prayer for kirtan in New York City, where he started, where Prabhupada started. And all of you are doing that. Ram Rai Prabhu was one of Aindra Prabhu's closest, dearmost associates in his 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, and has taken that wish to New York City. And so wonderfully fulfilling that wish of Srila Prabhupada, of Aindra Prabhu, of our acharyas, all of you. Each of you, your service is so dear to Srila Prabhupada and so dear to Krishna. Krishna will never forget. Just keep sharing Prabhupada's books and the holy names with the people of New York. And from New York, we're sharing with people of the entire world. Be grateful. Be grateful. All heart. Who are we to have such an exalted service? Never take it for granted. every single person that comes by and hears the holy name, any person who gets a book, what to speak of stacks of books, just planting that seed or touching that person's heart on behalf of Krishna, Prabhupada, that one person, that's a greater gain than becoming a billionaire or becoming the President of the United States. Just touching one person's heart with Krishna. There's eternal, limitless value. How fortunate you are. But to have such a position and such a blessing, there is struggle that's going to be involved. Otherwise, if we don't have some struggle, we'll take it for granted. Trinadapi sunichena tadora api sahishnuna amani namana dena kirtaniya sadhari. That is Mahaprabhu's message to us. That our acharyas highlighted that verse with such a high esteem. That whatever may happen, we have to learn to be tolerant like a tree, forgiving like a tree, humble like a blade of grass, offer all respect to others, not expect for ourselves. We can't bypass that verse. We can't jump over it. Only when we develop this attitude can we chant the name constantly. To the degree we strive for this, to that degree Krishna will be pleased. Should we end here or should we have questions? Yes.
Person asked me a question about it. He don't surrender, or she don't surrender herself because to Krishna, because she say she don't. The Bible say you cannot adore a statue of pictures. So that's the question she asked me.
Can't what?
Like she can. The Bible say you know adore a statue. Or pictures also. And also I try to invite to the temple for tomorrow for Paris on the string. Say how you want me to believe that Krishna becoming half a lion, half a man. So two questions she told me.
Yes, very nice.
And how could you respond that question to this question?
How to respond?
Yeah, because I think it's just amazing.
So many ways to respond. I remember Srila Prabhupada, who was explaining that somebody said to Prabhupada, why, if Krishna is everywhere, why are you worshipping him in this deity form? And Prabhupada said, if God is everywhere, then he's also in the deity form. If God is unlimited, how can we say he cannot enter into his own energy? The energy of God is everywhere. Everything is God's property. And by his mercy, he can enter into a form so that he can attract our hearts and receive our devotion and our service and give us an opportunity to worship him in a very personal way and reciprocate. That is God's unlimited mercy. It's not an idol. It's Krishna. And in the Bible, God appeared as a burning bush. God appeared as a pillar of fire. God appeared in so many ways. So if God wants to appear as half man, half lion, all we could do is say, Jai God. Jai Shri Krishna. But he does so to protect his devotee and to attract our hearts by Putranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna appears in so many ways to attract the hearts of the devotees, to protect the devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, to re-establish true Dharma. And the Bible says you can judge a tree by its fruits. So these devotees like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, all these great saints throughout history. They have ecstatic love for Krishna. They have ecstatic compassion for all living beings. They have ecstatic control over their mind and senses. Total faith in the supremacy of God, intimate love with God. If these people who are worshiping deities, if they have qualities like that, then we know for sure God is in the deities. Any other questions? I thank you so very, very much for your lives of devotion. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.